What's up, guys? It's Chris here to do my UFC 118 predictions. Not going to go too in depth, or try not to, because I plan on talking about these fights in this event in its entirety on the radio show on Sunday, Science of Violence radio show. I am going to be joined by Fight Magazine's Danny Acosta, writer for Fight Magazine, as well as if you look at Fight Magazine's YouTube channel, he interviews a lot of the fighters on there as well. Anyways, before I talk about the card, I'm not going to do the undercard. Not that intrigued by any of the fights. The only fight I was really looking forward to on the undercard was Joe Lozon versus Terry Edom. Unfortunately, Edom got hurt, so now it's Joe Lozon versus Gabe Rudiker. Not too intrigued by that fight. No disrespect to the fighters, but it's just I'm not that excited for that fight. Or I don't anticipate it that much. As for the card, though, it looks really good on paper. But the one thing I will say, and I've said it in the past, is the UFC cards that don't look that good on paper are not as stacked, end up being really good events, like UFC 117, for example, as opposed to UFC 118 looks really, really, really strong on paper, but I don't know if it's going to translate as well come the night of the fights. Hopefully it does, but I'm cautiously optimistic. I will be surprised if it exceeds 117, though, which was a really good event. Anyways, the first fight on pay-per-view, Nate Diaz versus Marcus Davis. Full disclosure, big fan of Nate Diaz. Have the exact opposite feeling towards Marcus Davis. Never really liked that guy. Just kind of something about him rubs me the wrong way. I think there's fighters with that with all people or with most people, and Marcus Davis is one of those guys to me. It's funny because Nate Diaz is that way to a lot of other fans. But Nate Diaz's last fight, won his debut at 170 at welterweight over Rory Markham, stopped him, looked really good there at the weight. Marcus Davis won his last fight over Jonathan Goulet. Not a surprise. That was a couldn't have been a better perfect matchup stylistically for Marcus Davis. And he actually struggled at times in that fight, surprisingly. So, based on that, I just think Marcus Davis, I've never thought all that highly of him, even as a fighter, aside of what I think of him, beside his fighting style and whatnot. That's not the reason I like him. But I just thought he always got favorable matchups. I never really thought he was all that good of a fighter. As for Nate Diaz, very well-rounded, fights similar to his brother Nick Diaz. The thing is, much like Nick, sometimes he'll fight on the feet where it's not in his best interest. Now, I don't think he's the better standing fighter here, but he has an unorthodox style that could still make him look better, much as when his brother Nick fought Marius Zaromskis not too long ago, for those that saw that fight. I thought that Zaromskis was the better on the feet, but Nick Diaz actually did. So Nate may be able to get the better of it on the feet because he's so unorthodox and he's long and lanky. It's just hard to deal with. On the ground, I think Nate Diaz has a huge advantage with his submission game, and I just think he's a better fighter. I think he's not even at his peak yet. I don't think he's in his prime yet. I think he's reaching it. I think Marcus Davis has passed his, particularly with the way he looked in the Goulet fight. So I'm gonna go with Nate Diaz to win. Now, don't get me wrong. I think if Nate gets this fight to the ground, he can win with submission, but I don't know how easily it's going to be for him to get it there because he doesn't have the best takedowns. And Marcus Davis has a pretty good takedown defense, but I think eventually the fight will hit the ground, and I think Nate can win by submission. But you never know. Maybe Marcus will catch Nate on the feet and hurt him and take him out, but Nate showed a damn solid chin. So I'm going to go with Nate Diaz to win this fight by submission, or if not, by decision. Next up, Damian Maia against Mario Miranda. Maia was originally supposed to face Alan Belcher on Ultimate Fighter Fight Night card. Fortunately for Alan Belcher, he suffered an eye injury, detached retina, I believe. So Maia's taking this fight. Honestly, I don't know anything about Miranda. I know he had his last debut fight in the UFC's last fight. I don't even know if he won or lost. But I'm going to favor Damian Maia. Great jiu-jitsu, goes without saying. Pretty much everybody knows that. I imagine he's going to get this fight to the ground at one point in time and submit Mario Miranda. If Miranda wins, then congratulations to him, and thumbs down for me for not doing more research on him before I did this video. Next up, Kenny Florian, Gray Maynard. Look forward to this fight. Should be the winner of this fight should get the next shot at the lightweight title. Gray Maynard undefeated in the UFC lightweight division. Kenny Florian looked really strong ever since his loss to BJ Penn when he fought for the lightweight title. Second time challenging for the lightweight title and successfully. Kenny Florian has looked really good in his last couple fights, stopping both Clay Guida and Takano Igomi. Gray Maynard didn't look so good in his last fight against Nate Diaz. He won the fight, although a lot of people thought that Nate Diaz won the fight. Personally, I'm a Nate Diaz fan, as I said, but I thought that Gray deserved the decision, rightfully so. As for this fight, I'm going to favor Kenny. I think he's better standing. I think technique-wise, I think he's more well-rounded on the feet. Gray's boxing isn't all that good as we saw in the Nate Diaz fight, or it's not all that improved. Kenny Florin's stand-up has improved immensely over his last few fights, and just since the beginning of his career, he's really improving his overall boxing and Muay Thai game. So I think he's better on the feet and on the ground. I think Gray's obviously the better wrestler, and Kenny's better with jiu-jitsu. You might think that it might look somewhat like if Gray can take him down, like when Shirk fought Florian and took him down and dominated from the top position. But one, I don't think Gray is as active with punches and elbows from the top position as Sean Shirk is. And second, Kenny Florian has improved a lot since that fight that loss to Sean Shirk. So I don't think that Kenny Florian is going to submit Gray Maynard, but I don't think Gray Maynard is going to be able to dominate Kenny Florian on the ground. So I'm going with Kenny Florian to win this fight by decision. I just think he's a better fighter at this stage in his career. I think he's a better mixed martial artist, and I think it's going to show in this fight. And I think, but I do think it'll go to decision. Gray Maynard is undefeated for a reason. He didn't get that title shot in his last fight, even though he had previously beaten Frankie Edgar, who now is a lightweight champion, which people find kind of strange. But I think it's because Gray didn't look all that impressive in the win over Nate Diaz. But I just think Kenny Florian's going to win this fight. Like I said, I just think he's the better fighter, and I think it's going to show when these two get into the cage. So Kenny Florian by decision. Yeah, that's that. Next up, now I think that this fight is the main event, but I'm going to go with it as co-main event, just because it seems like more people are talking about Couture Toney than this fight. Lightweight champion Frankie Edgar defending the title against BJ Penn in a rematch. The last fight, obviously Frankie won by decision to win the title. A lot of people thought that BJ Penn won that fight, particularly in the MMA media. A lot of those guys thought that BJ won the fight. I actually thought Frankie won. I thought he won the decision fairly. I thought it was a close fight, but I thought that Frankie did a little bit more. But I didn't think BJ looked himself. He just didn't look as energetic. He looked really flat. I don't know what it was. Maybe overtrained. I don't know what it was. But I don't remember if anything was reported with him being wrong before the fight or not. I don't remember him saying anything, so no excuses. But I just don't think he looked himself. As for Frankie Edgar, had a good game plan. A lot of movement, a lot of in and out, kind of quick strikes, and then moved out. Didn't want to get too many exchanges, take a chance of getting caught by BJ, who has some heavy hands. Good game plan. And obviously it worked for him. He got the decision from the judges. As for this fight, I expect BJ Penn to look better than he did in the first fight. Like I said, I don't know if there was anything wrong with him, but I expect him to look more like the BJ Penn in his prior two fights against Kenny Florian and Diego Sanchez. And if that BJ Penn comes in, I expect him to win this fight. The one thing I would say, I would hope BJ would look to do, I think would be good for him, is to look for more takedowns. He never really went for any takedowns. Now, granted, Frankie's probably a better wrestler, slightly, but when BJ Penn is on top position, he can really control and dominate guys and, get submissions or work for submissions pretty quickly from there. He's really good with elbows from the top as well. So I would recommend for BJ to look for more takedowns in this fight. As for, also just be more active, and which of course comes into how he looks in the fight. Unless he aged overnight in the last fight, I expect him, like I said, to be more of a prime BJ Penn, or what we're used to seeing out of BJ. As for Frankie, I wouldn't recommend doing much different than what you did from the first fight. Maybe go for a few more takedowns here and there, but if it works, if it ain't broke, why fix it, right? That's what they say. So just do more of what he did in the first fight. Active, a lot of in and out movement, a lot of activity, somewhat similar to a Dominic Cruz, although not as unorthodox with his movement. But I'm going to go with BJ Penn to win this fight by decision. I think he'll land more solid shots. I think he'll do better. I think he'll just, the first fight was a close fight and BJ Penn was off. I think if he's more on, he can be more effective. And I think it's going to show. I'm going to give Frankie the benefit of the doubt, though. He did win the title for a reason. So I do think he can make it to a decision. He only has one loss to Gray Maynard, and that was by decision. So I think it will go to a decision either way. But I'm going to go with BJ Penn to win and regain his lightweight title. On to what I'm considering the main event. I think many of at least the mainstream press are. Randy the Natural Couture against James Lights Out Toney. Now, the UFC is billing this as UFC versus boxing. I'm not. First off, it's MMA, so it would be MMA versus boxing, but I'm not looking at it that way. It's under mixed martial arts rules, so it's a mixed martial arts fight. Now, anyone that's subscribed to my channel knows that I'm a boxing fan as well as an MMA fan, so I know plenty about James Toney and his career. Great fighter as a young fighter, one of the pound-for-pound best. Then had a lull in his career, didn't take it seriously, lost some fights, had a resurgence at cruiserweight, moved up to heavyweight, had some success there as well. But once again, got lethargic, lazy in training, didn't take his career too seriously, and it's kind of how he ended up here in the UFC, which was by his choice. You know, he pursued Dana White to get in the UFC, and he's here. As for Randy Couture, legend in the sport, regardless of what James Toney says. But Randy, older fighter, he looked good in his last fight, went over Mark Coleman, but you know, Mark Coleman is well further past his prime than Randy Couture, even if Randy's older. Plus, even at their best, Randy Couture is a much better fighter than Mark Coleman. The thing I will say is, obviously it goes without saying that James Toney's probably only chance to win this fight is to land a good punch. And with 4-ounce gloves, you know, if he lands something solid, he should be able to hurt Randy, if not put him out cold. However, and also Randy Couture's chin it looked a little more vulnerable as of late. He got stunned briefly in the Vera fight. He got dropped twice by Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira in their fight. So if James is able to land a fight or land a punch, I think he can hurt and possibly stop Randy. However, I don't know if that's going to happen. Although Randy isn't your typical wrestler, he's not like Rashad Evans, George St. Pierre, Josh Koscheck that's going to shoot for a double leg. He's a Greco guy. Likes to get in the clinch and take guys down from there with hip tosses or, you know, throws or whatever. Or work dirty boxing, which I don't think he'd want to do in this fight. But, oh man, I completely forgot what I was going to say. Oh, but I would take James more likely to land a punch if he was in better shape. UFC released a press photo a couple weeks ago where James looked to be in pretty good shape. Maybe 215, 220, 225. But it turns out, apparently that picture was photoshopped. And a more accurate photo was released recently, this past week or so. And James looks to be in horrible shape. Really big gut. It's going to be really slow. It's really going to show, I think, in this fight. Also, James is going to be fighting without shoes. He's not going to be able to get the traction that you can wearing shoes in a boxing match. Who knows how not wearing shoes is going to affect him in the ring, but it's definitely going to be a detriment to his game plan. Even no matter what kind of training or how long he's been training for this fight, which I don't know how hard he's been taking his training by the looks of the shape that he is in, which doesn't appear to be in the best shape. So, be curious to see if Randy does try to employ some kicks before shooting for a takedown. That may also give James the opportunity to land a punch, but I don't know. I expect Randy to play it safe, work in for a takedown ASAP, get it. I don't think he should have too many problems getting James Toney down. And once there, work a little bit of ground and pound en route to securing a submission. I could see him working for a Kimura, Americana, arm triangle, you name it. If you can get the back, rear naked choke, you probably be able to get in no time flat. But either way, or regardless, I just don't see James Toney winning this fight. He can always land a punch, but I just don't see it happening. I just don't think he's in the condition to do it, and I don't think he's prepared enough for this fight. I don't know how much he's been preparing or who all he's been training with mainly, but from what I've seen, the clips I've seen, it just doesn't look like he's taking it as seriously as maybe he should. So I'm going to go with Randy Couture to win this fight by first round submission. Regardless of who wins the fight, it doesn't mean one sport's better than the other. Toney wins, it doesn't mean boxing is better than MMA. If Couture wins, it doesn't mean MMA is better than boxing. It just means that that fighter was better than the other fighter that night in that sport. So that's that. Once again, I'll be talking about these fights in their entirety more on Sunday on the Science of Violence radio show, 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern, 5 Central, joined by Fight Magazine's Danny Acosta. Put a link in the information bar as always, as well as a link to my Twitter, which I always keep updated, you know, as far as when the radio show is going to come on the day of and whatnot. So be sure and check that out. You can email the show at scienceviolence@gmail.com if you have any questions or comments about this event or anything in general. Or you can call into the show the day of. The number will be provided in the link to the site to the show. So that's it for now. I'll probably be back on Saturday night briefly to give my thoughts on UFC 118. Not this Saturday, next Saturday when the fight is. But until then, guys, I'm out.